You're listening to The Paul Higgins Show, where ambitious tech consultants come to unlock their potential. After 18 years as a global leader, I launched several businesses, culminating in a successful exit. I'm sharing what I learned, plus what's working now from mentoring tech consultants. You will hear leaders within our industry to help you build a business you love that allows you to do what you want. If you are looking for immediate cash flow wins to fuel your growth, go to our free ebook at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap. You know you need to get rid of tasks that are preventing you from doing your best work, but who do you trust? Hi, I'm Paul Higgins, and welcome to the Paul Higgins Show, episode 573. And in this podcast today, we've got Andrew Jacoby from Good Shepherd Staffing, and you're going to learn lots from Andrew, but in particular, three key things. One is why you need a VA, and he has got a different spin to what you've heard on other interviews in this podcast. The second is how he prepares his team to maximize the results for you. And third is the beliefs that lead to trust and why you can trust his team, maybe over others. Andrew is an entrepreneur and an artist who is currently building Good Shepherd Staffing in order to help business owners who have not experienced the power of hiring remote staff to help them grow their business. While at the same time, he also helps Catholics in developing countries to find work that enables them to work locally whilst having a good wage to support their family. Andrew learned the power of overseas staff in the process of building his first business, Growth Era, which is a multi-million-dollar sales enablement agency with 80 employees, all of which, besides the CEO, are overseas. Great to have you here, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, well, look, this is in a way the second time we've not had you, but someone from your business. So we had Philip on episode 550, and he was talking about outsourced sales, SDRs, and outsourced sales, which I know we'll sort of cover in this. But today we're really talking about Good Shepherd Staffing and how you're helping entrepreneurs across the globe get rid of, the things they shouldn't be doing. They can do them, but they shouldn't be doing them.
100%.
So I know that's what we're here to talk about today, but why don't you just tell us a little bit more on who that ideal client is for you, and what are some of the other problems that you see them having at the moment than the obvious one that they're doing things they shouldn't?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. The ideal client for us typically has been a business owner or a busy executive that has work that needs to get done that they don't need to be doing, which everyone has. Because we all have stuff to be doing that is super high value, that we are excellent at doing, that provides a massive amount of value to the enterprise. And then there's everything else. If you have the everything else bucket, we can help.
Yeah, perfect. And how there's not an episode that I can't mention AI at some point, so why don't we get it out early? But how is AI supporting your people in supporting those busy business owners?
I would say at the moment, not at all.
Okay.
But because the staffing members that we place with people, they might be using AI in their roles that I'm not aware of. Internally, we don't use it very much.
Okay. And is that a deliberate strategy, or is that just the way that it's evolving?
No, it's not a deliberate strategy. It's just that the tools that I've seen, I haven't seen the value yet that in any of the different roles that I have. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just haven't seen it. And I'm busy trying to build the business and provide value for customers. I'm not against it. I have no position on it. If you show me a tool that can help me, I've looked at other tools in the other businesses. You mentioned Growth Era. They are heavily involved with using AI for all sorts of processes. We haven't been using it super heavily in Good Shepherd Staffing again.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, look, there's one podcast, and I'd love to get him on if he ever has the opportunity. It's Michael Stelzner, but AI powered, I think would be a great podcast for you, Andrew, but also anyone else listening, because there's some really good practical use, especially around marketing.
Great.
Some practical uses of doing it. But let's go back to, firstly, you've described your business, the people that you work for, and effectively everyone here should be nodding because that's sort of you, right? You're all doing things you shouldn't. Just tell us a little bit about I know that you have certain regions in the world that you source people from, and from my understanding, they're mainly assistants or virtual assistants. So I know that's two questions in one. So the first one is sort of where are your people, where you getting your people from, and then we'll cover the question of what do you people actually do.
We work with people in developing Catholic countries in general. That doesn't mean exclusively, but in general, that's the reality. So it'd be South and Central America as well as the Philippines. But there's also Austria, Poland, which are less developing, let's say, but they're also Catholic countries, Croatia. Those are the main countries that we source from.
Right, and the for you, what are some of the differences you've seen from different countries? Like, for example, if I'm in the US, why would I get someone potentially from Latin America versus the Philippines versus Europe?
Yeah, it's another good question, Paul. I've sourced from all over the world. Growth Era, the previous companies, mostly in the Balkan region. So that would be Macedonia. Hired hundreds of people. We have 82 currently ish. But I would say that in the first thing for South America, Central America, some people really like the time zone overlap there. That's number one. Number two, there's a language thing. A lot of people are looking for bilingual representation. And so if they, we have people that are that have Spanish clientele, so that's an obvious fit. And then there's I would say those are the two main reasons. We source from, I would say right now the majority of the representatives that we're sourcing are from the Philippines. I've just had a great experience with people from the Philippines in general. I like their attitude, I like their work ethic, I like their just the working with them. It's just been that's what I've learned in this new company. Before I never worked with anybody from the Philippines in except one person actually in Growth Era, and that's a new experience for me. And now all of my staff are in the Philippines for the internal company, and most of the people we're placing are in the Philippines. If not, they're in South and Central.
Yeah, yeah, and look, if you've been a long time listener, firstly, thank you. But I had an outsourcing business in the Philippines, and first went there in 2012, and yeah, fell in love with the people and the quality, and still have people there. And I've also got people in Colombia, and I think it's great that you've actually got multiple, because most of the providers that we talk to will say, oh, I only have one. I'm only the Philippines. I'm only Eastern European. I'm only Latin America. But to come to you and be able to source talent across the three, I
Yes.
think is fantastic. And the cultural differences, like, are they, do you see any significant cultural differences? I know you talked about language with Latin America, etc., and time zones for the US and Canada, but is there other major cultural differences that you see across
I
the
think
three?
that there is, let's say in the South American, Central American, there's certain different regions that have different skill sets. So South and Central America, I think, are typically pretty strong as it relates to sales. I think they're maybe even stronger in general and for the most part than Filipinos. It's less of a sales culture in the Philippines, at least as it relates to selling to, let's say, American and North American market. That's just been my experience so far.
Yes,
That's not. I'm sure there's amazing salespeople in the Philippines that I haven't met, and
yes,
there's super weak ones that I. That would be one particular skill set. And for example, in Eastern Europe, there's great technical abilities, skill sets. That, again, that doesn't mean you can't find that in the Philippines and South and Central America, but they really shined there in Eastern Europe for that. For the Filipinos, I think that they work really well on the customer success side, dealing with people, being empathetic with people on the customer service side. That's part of their culture. And so that's been my experience so far. Those are some variations there that happen in different places. So when I'm sourcing for internal staff or when I'm sourcing for a client, I'm always thinking about, okay, well, I might have a bias towards a particular region for a particular skill set.
yeah, great. And I think one of the easiest ways to talk about your service is to give an example. So I know that you're currently working with a consultant. Their sales and marketing, not quite technical, but a lot of the fundamentals are the same. Just tell us a little bit about why they came to you, and also just tell us about the model. Like, how's it currently working with Good Shepherd Staffing?
Yeah, well, I think we have a variety of clients, and the one you're mentioning, Ben, he's a sales and marketing consultant for entrepreneurs, people that are trying to grow their businesses, and he refers us a lot of business, and because his theory is the same as what you mentioned earlier, Paul, which is that mostly what people need to do is stop doing the things they shouldn't be doing and focus only on the things that they should be doing, because that's the best way to move the needle in any business, especially a small business. Because if you're the entrepreneur, if you're the consultant, and you're doing a bunch of administrative tasks that can be best done by somebody else, it's really weak. So what he did is he hired himself a virtual assistant from us, and then took the work that he needed to get off his plate, and now he introduces us to other people that need the same. But again, my argument is basically everybody needs to, if it's not overseas, even locally, whatever, however you want to do it. I've just found overseas. I started hiring overseas because when I started my business, I was a freelance musician. I was working on the streets of Vienna in the subways playing music. So I didn't have a lot of capital. So
Yeah.
that was the labor that I could afford at that time.
Yeah.
And then I've just, once I couldn't unsee the value once I started doing it. So that's why I kept hiring overseas, because I just said, well, why am I going to go and pay somebody X when I could pay X minus Y for the same labor output?
Yeah, look, and let's call it roughly a third, right? So if it's roughly a third but I think the other thing that often is missed, and that was my experience running an outsourcing business, is the longevity. So in the Philippines in particular, right? It's like you have someone for life. Like they are very service orientated, like you said, and for them it's a really big deal. Like I've had people that work for me, VAs that work for me when I had my company, that got their family a house based on the ways they were earning from me. And so it has a significant difference in their life, and they really, really
100%.
need these jobs where
100.
that's not always the case. What we found in more or countries like the US, Canada, Australia, etc.
Yeah, 100%. In the growth era, we have a lot of young people. So it's an entry level sales role, the sales development representative, appointment setter, cold caller. And these are kids that are in their early 20s, and they're almost all making more money than their parents. And they're able to support their parents back in the villages where they live in Macedonia or in Albania. And so the pride and sense of accomplishment that they're
Yes.
able to experience from that is really rewarding.
So I think that's a really big difference, because people say, well, why don't you employ someone local? I'm like, well, if they had the drive, the passion, and the loyalty, I would. But it's not always as easy to find that as what you do in
100%.
the countries that you mentioned. And just a reminder, if you want to know more about Growth Era, just go to episode 550, and you can hear Philip, one of Andrew's teams,
One of my
talk about
first
that.
employees at Growth Era, Philip.
There
He's
you go.
great. Yeah, he's really good.
And the models, the VA, let's use VA as an example. Is the VA your employee, and then someone buys either full or part-time hours? How does that model sort of work?
We start off with a 10-hour free trial. So if you want to try this, if you've never done it before, you can go and contact us, and we'll send you some VA resumes and some Loom videos so you can see the people. We're sourcing them from VA schools, and that means they've invested money into learning how to be a VA, and then they come work for us. So we've already vetted the basics for them, that they have the basic inputs of they're hardworking, they're intelligent, and they're honest. They show up on time. They do what they say they're going to do. And then we'll pay them for 10 hours to work for you. So that's how all relationships start. If you like the person, yes, you'll be contracting with a US based LLC. And then we will be paying that LLC. You'll be contracting with that company. And then we will be paying and handling the paperwork overseas. And then we're going to be checking in with you on a weekly basis to make sure that the VA is performing. If not, can we remediate that situation? If not, we will replace that person as part of the as we do. You'll always have a person in that role that is effective. Obviously, we hope it's the person we placed the first time, but as you know, Paul, from hiring a lot of people, sometimes the fit's not there, and you can't really fix the situation. You need to replace the person, and that
Yeah.
happens sometimes. Yeah, and it's full time is like paid per month up front.
Yep.
Also half time. So an average VA would be an entry level right now. Obviously, these prices subject to change, but at the moment is 799 USD for a full time person. 499 for half time, so that'd be 20 hours a week, and then a la carte is $7 an hour on a per weekly basis. So
Yeah.
however you want to do it.
Great. And look, and I think, some of you may have seen this, so I'll throw the question to you, but I'll just quickly set it up, is
Sure.
that I often see people say, I don't really know what they're going to do. I know I've got the problem, but I don't really know how I'm going to solve it. So
Mm,
I'll just go part-time, right? I'll start part-time, and then I'll go to full-time. And I used to always advise people, look, you're going to find more work than they can actually do. And if you really want to build a relationship with someone and actually get someone that is could not maybe not go to someone else, because sometimes, if people sharing, someone else might take them full time. My view is always start full time, right? I think
I
that's a
do. I
better than
agree.
part time.
I
You're
agree. I recommend that to people, but not everybody wants to do it. So I try to
yes.
meet people where they're at. But I'm with you 100%. Look, it's not a huge amount of money. You'll have plenty of work for them. You'll just keep giving them work. It's like a muscle you develop. You'll start out not so great, not knowing what to give them. You'll give them a little bit. It'll go well. Maybe it won't. You'll improve it. Then it'll go well. And then as they build up trust and as they take more and more off your plate, guess what you're going to have? You're going to have an appetite to give them more and more work to do. And within a couple of months, so maybe they're a little bit underutilized in the beginning, but then over time they'll be overutilized and you'll need more of them. I started out with one, ended up with 82 in the first company.
Yes. For you,
And
well,
that was like
after
5 years later. So that wasn't even that long.
yeah, well, I often look at the fact that it's a bit like I don't know if you've got in America, the dog training shows, but in Australia at the moment they're very prevalent. Lots of dogs were through COVID, so therefore there's lots of dogs with problems at homes, right? And often it's not the dog, it's the owner in nearly every occasion, right? Because they fix,
Definitely.
a bit of food. Like I always say, just it seems too easy, it's a treat, but ultimately it's the owner's bad habits, is it's not the dogs. And I often found
Yes.
that the exact same in outsourcing. So yeah, so how do you help owners be better at letting the VA do their work?
Well, I think that this is something that I'm learning the more clients we get is that I need to do more training on this piece because it comes more natural to me because I've been doing it for a really long
Yes.
period of time. And so now I'm only doing it where there is an issue. But we'll be setting up in the future training on how to do this. I mean, I think there's some simple tools that everybody can use. First, the first and foremost would be loom.com. So creating asynchronous Loom videos, screen capture videos of the work that you're doing, communicate in an audio and a visual format what you're doing to work with. Another one is a project management tool. So we use Trello. It's super easy to use. It's free. You can drag tasks and cards across Kanban boards: to do, doing, waiting, done. And you can just see tasks there. Slack, communicate via Slack. And then like a tool like Notion to manage databases and also keep an ongoing list of tasks that are being done and the increment. So this is a daily task. This
Yes.
next task, this happens every week. And just keep adding to that. Okay, oh, every month I need to send a card to this person. That's going to be a monthly task. So just to sort of stack different things that you take off your plate and put on their plate. And that should be like a constant thing. What am I doing today that I don't need to be doing, that I'm repeating over and over and over again? Even if it's only 5 minutes, those little things add up over periods of time. That 5 minute task that you do every day is hours and hours on a yearly basis.
Yeah, I think I can't remember from my days of running a VA company. It was either 1,300 or 1,600 minutes a year or something like that. Everyone says, oh, it's just quicker for me to do it myself. But
Right.
like, yeah,
That day it is, but
correct.
over
The
time, right.
multiplier, it's a
Yeah.
massive difference.
100%.
Yeah, and
100%.
the simple question I ask most clients is like, how much time are you spending on sales and marketing? I'm like, no, come on, like, tell me. Let's take this week. How much time do you spend on sales and marketing? And if it's normally 10% at best, that's great, right? But ultimately, with my clients that I mentor, I want them to get to 50%, right? So I think anything that is precluding you to get to that 50% on sales or marketing, because as the owner of the business, for most of you, you're the only one that's going to do it, right? Everyone else can do the other things, but you're the only person that can be you, and you're the best salesperson for your business. So just write a list,
100%.
even if it's a manual list, write it, and you'll easily find. And the other thing, like Andrew said, is because people are already trained and the VAs are already trained, they also will buy the things that you may not even be aware of that you can let go of, right? So
Right, 100%. I have clients that they record multi-hour long Loom videos of them just doing work. They then send that to the VA to watch and say, what can you take off my plate here that I'm not seeing? Just recording themselves working, not even talking through what they're doing, just working. Okay, you see over that 3 hours that I don't need to be doing that you could do.
yeah,
So
and
there's lots of ways, and it's as you do it, you get better at it. Your muscle grows, and then it can grow to the point where you can delegate yourself out of a job as I did with the first company. That takes a while, and that's like prized as anybody that that actually happened, but it's a real thing. It actually happened. That the company grows, it expands, new clients are brought on. They have no idea who I am. I was just in Macedonia. Most of my employees don't know who I am, even though I founded the company. The only work I do in that company is a board meeting where we decide how much we're going to reinvest of the profits and how much we're going to take out. That's it. So
Yeah.
everything else is delegated, the entire running of the company, which is that's the magic trick of having your own company.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's so true. And like for a lot of you listening that are specifically, tech consultants, is the hard thing is it, certainly from a customer point of view and a technology point of view, it's not an easy thing, right? It's not as if you can go into every customer and it's always the exact same thing. You have to learn the business, you got to understand the owner, you got to understand the team, then you got to map the architect. Like there's a lot of complexity, right? So, just that in itself is exhausting. So most of you that I talk to are exhausted by that. So you don't have the energy, even if you had the time to do the sales and marketing. So there's things like for me, I have my team do all my posts in the US time, etc. But I just write it in a document. I use some AI to help, but I'm only writing it and then they're doing everything else, right? It's like do the bits that only you can do and then everything else is outsourced. It's $7.99 a month. It's a low risk investment because I don't know what's your time worth. If your time's worth 200, $185, whatever an hour, it doesn't take many hours of opportunity cost to do it. And Andrew, the name Good Shepherd Staffing, you said you mainly source from Catholic or Catholic-based countries and
Yes.
Catholic-based people. Just tell us a little bit as to why that's the case.
Yeah, I had in my previous company, I had a religious conversion to the Catholic faith, and one of the reasons I transitioned out of that company was because it just I didn't feel comfortable praying a rosary if I'm in a company with a mixed bag of people internally. Like there's Muslims, they're from Albania, for example, or what have you. And so when I gave my life to God, I sort of gave everything to him, and including my company. I just wanted to be comfortable. That's what I was doing was I was serving him by serving his people. And so internally, like with our we have clients that are not Catholic and could care less that of the Catholic faith, but internally, when we start a meeting, we start with the rosary. We say God bless you. I'm just able to be free and sort of out as a religious person, let's say, in the company, and that's what I wanted to do because I dedicated like everything in my life to God post conversion.
For those that aren't Catholic, if you look at some of the values and attributes that your team therefore have, is there any sort of talk about that and how that applies to their work ethic?
That's a great question. I think that this is something that even in the previous company, I underestimated. I thought it was weird all these things about talking about principles and these kind of character traits and culture. And I can say that it might be the most important thing. The idea that we're going to tell the truth, that we're going to have an attitude of service as a way of living our lives with love. Love means to will the good of the other, according to St. Thomas Aquinas, and that's what it means to serve somebody. Is you will their good, you actively participate in trying to bring about the good of the people that you work with, because they're ends in themselves. They are not means. To have an attitude of gratitude that our life is a gift for us, and I think that this is people with a religious background. It's a little bit more natural. I think. I mean, there's certainly I can look at myself, and when I converted post conversion, these things are more important and more natural to me than they were before, where it was sort of I was living my life more as a like let's say more based upon ego and selfish gains, and now I think more about service and what I can give to others and how I can help others. That's my own personal perspective with it, but I think it can't stress enough the importance of culture. What culture comes from, I think, the Latin cultus, which is to love. Like, what is it that you love? If it's all just bottom line driven, okay, that's fine. But sort of, I think the attempt to build organizations that respect the human person and treat them with respect, try to elevate and uplift them is really what I want to be a part of personally.
Yeah, and look, some of the rumors or some of the things that go around in the industry is that people aren't treated well, people, it's like sweatshops. People are watched, their monitors 24/7. Like there's a lot of bad habits that unfortunately not
100%.
every company has it, but there's a lot of that. So I think the way that you run your business, that's distinctive for me. But the other thing is the trust. Like a lot of people don't have a virtual assistant because of the trust factor, right? They don't trust. And I think, the way that you've got people that have got that in their DNA, that's their core. I think that certainly helps there for people trusting. But we could talk forever about this topic. A reminder, we're talking to Andrew Jacoby, Good Shepherd Staffing, episode 573. But what we're going to do now is just take a brief moment to thank our sponsors, and then we're going to come back with a rapid fire. Running a tech consulting business can feel like a solo journey, but what if you didn't have to navigate it alone? Introducing the Tech Collective, your go-to resource for tackling those burning questions and unlocking your potential. Join a dynamic collective of experienced tech consultants ready to share insights, strategies, and support to help you today. Grappling with sales, clients, team challenges, our Tech Collective has your back. Join us today at paulhigginsmentoring.com/TC. There's a link in the show notes. There's a small application. And as a thank you for being a listener, enter the coupon code TC, capital TC25 at checkout. That's TC25 to get 25% off. Visit paulhigginsmentoring.com/TC today. Andrew, ready for the rapid fire?
Do it.
Let's do it. So the first question is, what are some of the daily habits that help you scale Good Shepherd Staffing?
Well, the first is daily mass and then prayer, praying the rosary to get right with God. And then the second would be as much time as possible in the morning when I'm feeling strong, doing deep work. So that is work, not communicating back and forth, spending time listening to Bach is my specialty, and with a pen and paper, and just thinking about what business was I in yesterday and what business should I be in today? Like, what am I doing? What should I do differently to improve the results of the organization?
And I know this is rapid fire, but quick question. What were you playing in Vienna? What instrument?
Oh, I played like mostly Americana music. Doesn't necessarily travel that much, like bluegrass, blues music, to get people a little bit more familiar with the variety of American music that exists rather than what they just hear on the radio.
All right, brilliant. The next one is, where do you go to learn more about scaling both of your businesses?
Right now, I have to say there's a lot of great channels on YouTube. I've been listening to Greg Eisenberg, listening to Cody Schneider, been listening to Andrew Wilkinson. There's some great, really talented people online that are sharing, like yourself, Paul, that are out, that have podcasts that are out interviewing people or talking about what they're doing. And I find a lot of value on YouTube, actually.
Yeah, same. For me, I use, well, for now, one of my habits is, whether it's good or bad, is before I go to sleep, I've got to do my half an hour, 45 minutes of YouTube. It's fantastic. If I could grant you one wish, what would that be for the business?
To serve more people, to
And the
serve the
last,
Lord by serving more people.
brilliant. And the last one is, I know there has been around for quite some time. You started Good Shepherd Staffing, at the start of the year, 10 months. What do you already know now that you wish you had known at the start?
That maybe the best channels for marketing can sometimes be the channels that are the least crowded because they're difficult. So for me, that's the phone. And I tried to go more automated in the beginning in terms of lead generation, and I'm now going back to my roots, which is phone outreach. And I should have done that earlier. So I wish I knew that earlier. I wish I didn't try to automate everything, automate the humans out of everything, because they can be really effective on the phone.
Yeah, great to have you on, Andrew. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, and we'll have all the links to Andrew and how you can find out more about Good Shepherd Staffing in the show notes. But Andrew, it's been a joy having you on today.
Hey, man, thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate it.
What a great interview with Andrew, and I think it's really important to have that trust in whoever you're outsourcing to. And I think, as you heard, Andrew's culture and his values and his beliefs certainly support that. Reach out to Andrew on LinkedIn and thank him, and also ask any questions. Also, listen to Philip, episode 550, around outsource sales talent as well. So if you think you could have the perfect match, you have your VA talent and also your sales. If you know people that are your peers that are doing things they shouldn't, please send them this episode so they can get some help from Andrew. And also you can watch Andrew and I on our YouTube channel, which is Paul Higgins Mentoring. And finally, I'll see you next time on the Paul Higgins Show. Time for action. Let me know what you implemented from the show. I promise to respond. Plus, get the Tech Consultants Roadmap at paulhigginsmentoring.com/roadmap.